we go. Welcome, Chief Gray.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
How's it going?
Could be always better, but I always say I'm living a dream, but sometimes the dreams are nightmares.
Hey,
That's okay.
one person's dream. It's like one man's trash is another man's treasure. One man's dream is another man's nightmare.
Exactly right. So maybe somebody likes it somewhere. I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of like, what's that kid thing? 6'7"? Yeah. One of those. So.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks for coming on. I just wanted
Absolutely.
to have you come on, talk a little about where you came from, what you're doing here in North San Pete, how things are going with the new
how I got down to God's country.
Yeah.
So I'm from Utah County. That's where I was born and raised up there.
Mm-hmm.
Spent most of my time in Pleasant Grove and Linden. That's where my family was from, where I was raised. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. When I got to graduate high school, didn't know what I wanted to do, and always had an interest in law enforcement, but I was like, nah, I caused too much problems in my youth. I can't do it, right?
Your interest is more in how do you not deal with law enforcement?
Exactly. It was and it either became a couple things. It was either I went to jail or I became a cop, one of the two. No. But my dad owned a company doing mechanics up there in Linden, and I kind of was following in his footsteps doing that as well. And he turned the business over to me when I was pretty young. And so ran that for a few years. And honestly, me and my wife, just owning a family business was just not for me and my wife.
It totally happens.
It just was not necessarily a good thing for my family. So
Sure.
We just were to the point that I needed to do something different. And my wife was like, you've always talked about being a cop, so why don't you do it? And so I went into the academy and sponsored myself through the academy in, I think, 2001, 2002-ish. And when I graduated the academy, I started working for Pleasant Grove, but then got a full-time job up in South Jordan.
Oh, dang. Okay.
And so I kind of got a little bit of all the aspects of different counties, but I worked up in South Jordan for about a year, and Pleasant Grove was always calling me saying, hey, why don't you come back home? And so I came back to Pleasant Grove and worked there for a few years. And then Pleasant Grove was interesting because Pleasant Grove contracted with Linden at the time.
Okay.
So they provided police services to both cities. And then Linden broke off and started their own police department. And when they did that, they took 15 of us from Pleasant Grove.
Oh, wow.
So it was a huge mass kind of exodus over to Linden. Linden's where I spent most of my career, 13, 14 years there.
Okay.
I did everything from homicide detective to regular patrol, to detectives, to supervisor, and ended up being one of the highest in the department at that time.
Yeah, sweet.
Which then led me to come down here. So it was kind of, I'm not going to lie. I told you I'm an open book. I tell. I was kind of using, at the time, I had applied to be the police chief at a couple different places. Moroni was one of them.
Okay.
Another one was up towards Perry, Utah, up there. I had applied there. I finished second in the testing up by Perry. And they hired somebody internally, and then Moroni came available, and I applied there and ended up getting the position of chief of police in Moroni. Now, I wasn't 100% positive if I was going to take it, because I was using it as kind of, hey, look at me, I can go here if you don't give me something in Linden type thing.
Yeah,
and
kind of leverage.
A little bit of leverage. And at the time, it was just like, well, we'll see you. Thank you. I'm like, okay. So I took Moroni and I came down. And even though that maybe wasn't the plan to come down that way, when I did get to Moroni, I fell in love with San Pete County.
Yeah.
And as many people do when they get down here. And fell in
more
love.
And more, it seems like lately.
Exactly. Yes. And unfortunately, growth's inevitable. But I was over in Moroni for about a year and a half, I think, as the chief. And we, at the time, we were contracting with Fairview. So Moroni and Fairview kind of had a contract that we covered each other when the other officer was gone, because they were both just one-man departments. And so when Fairview came open, I thought, well, I've already been over there a little bit. Maybe I'll just apply. Really wasn't didn't know if I was going to do it, but then I
Mhm.
applied, and they gave me the offer, and I jumped over to Fairview. So,
Which you still kind of covered Moroni,
yeah, a
right?
little
You know, like you're
bit, and
still over
then
there a little.
yeah, it was kind of, we did back and forth a little bit, but then when I came over here, that contract kind of just stopped,
Right.
and so I was just with Fairview for several years, about 5 years, I think, and
Hmm.
why I was over in Fairview, and honestly, absolutely fell in love with Fairview. Fairview was just, I don't know, like, was just the dream, right?
Dude, it's weird. I
And
grew up in this valley, and I grew up in Chester, and I've lived all around the valley and
yeah,
stuff. But Fairview was awesome.
Fairview was like, and I don't know what it is, but it's like, it was like the dream. It was
Yeah.
there, and I was like, it couldn't have been going better. It was like
Yeah.
things that, that I thought I would never be good at. I started to come forward, and I was like, this is kind of me, and I can let myself out a little bit instead of being under somebody else, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, anyway. And, so we ended up in Fairview getting the second officer, with the help of the mayor at the time, which was Brad Welch. And,
Yep.
we got the second officer, and things were going really well. And then, when everything seems to be comfortable, a position comes open that you just feel like you can make a difference or change.
Right, yeah.
And Mount Pleasant came, and I felt like, maybe I can make Mount Pleasant more kind of like Fairview-ish, type
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
And so I jumped over there, and in a very short period of time, it was like we had some officers get injured, and we had on both sides, Fairview and Mount Pleasant, and we were covering each other anyway. So it was like,
Yeah.
why can't we just join and cover? And and I think I was there for about a year and a half, and that became the North Valley Police Department after that. So
Gotcha.
it
Okay.
all worked out well. And
Sweet.
honestly, had I not made that transition over to Mount Pleasant, and this is what I say all the time, if the mayor of Mount Pleasant wasn't who he was at the time, if I wasn't the chief of Mount Pleasant, if Logan wasn't the chief of Fairview, and if Brad wasn't the mayor of Fairview,
Yeah.
this whole thing probably would have fallen apart at some
Right.
point. But it all worked together, the four of us, and
Yeah. Well, I think
we
it's
got it all
great.
together.
I mean, it seems like it's got a lot more coverage for everybody, and kind of relaxes the force.
It's all come. It's kind of a weird deal, but it's all come kind of together. Now,
Yeah.
doesn't come without problems, right?
Sure,
My
yeah.
job got extremely more stressful, more people to
Mhm.
manage, that kind of stuff.
A lot more area.
A lot more area to cover. And so there is some of that stuff. But now when we have somebody go out sick,
Mhm.
or we have somebody that gets injured, which we have had, we have the manpower and the personnel to just fill those spots.
Yeah.
And so it's been actually really good. And for those that don't know, it did create us. So we typically have 2 or more officers on call or on duty at all time. There's no more
Okay.
on call.
Great.
And we run 24/7. So our officers are out which we hear about all the time. I'll tell you, at 3:00 in the morning when they're like, there's nobody out, and they get stopped. They're like,
Yeah.
I thought you guys don't work at 3. Well, we do now.
Yeah. You
So-
didn't when I was young. I remember
exactly,
that.
yeah. So there was always a time that everybody knew. After 2,
Yeah.
there's not. And so those are pushes that have gone through the county as well. Ephraim's 24/7. We're
Mhm.
24/7. The county's basically gone 24/7 now. So, I mean,
Dang.
there's,
The sheriff's offices.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, or really close to it within a couple hours.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
So we kind of just cover each other and work with each other. And
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah,
great.
It's
I mean,
been great manpower.
yeah,
So
that seems like the best way to kind of, it's a team effort.
it is 100%. And I love it because Fairview and Mount Pleasant have worked so well together that I'll tell you a complaint if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just go right into a complaint.
Sure. Yeah.
It was funny because it was like way down on my list, like probably the 10th thing on my list, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Fairview came to me and they said, how come the trucks don't say North Valley on them? I said, well, it's because, costs money and we have time and we need to get it done. And it's kind of down on my list to make it. And they're like, well, we're all in on this. This is our police. I'm like, it is. And they were kind of like, well, that's the one complaint. That's the number one complaint I get is why it doesn't say North Valley. So if you notice, we have stripped all of our vehicles now. They don't say Mount Pleasant or Fairview.
I did notice
They just
that.
say police on the side, and we'll make it to North Valley eventually. But
Sure.
But they're all in, and the buy-in citizens are loving it from everything I've told or been seeing. So it's been great.
Heck
So,
yeah. So when you came down to St. Pete,
Mhm.
you're saying you're looking at Perry or Moroni or anything. did you want to get out to the country more, or like what were you thinking?
Yeah, so like when I applied for Perry, like I said, I think initially my thoughts were that I was just going to use it as kind of a leverage thing. Yeah,
just to
like
stay.
I'm like, hey,
Okay.
I'm number 3 in the department right now. You're going to make a number 2, like, you know, this is kind of a leverage thing for me. I have other options type thing.
Okay.
And, you know, and everybody manages a little bit different. Sometimes that leverage doesn't work.
Yeah.
So initially, I think that's what I was looking at.
Okay.
But when I got down here, it changed. It was like it was completely different. I'm like, this is where I want to be. It's kind of nice not to be up in the city anymore.
Yep.
And kind of have your own thing. So we settled in very well. My wife's from a very small town, like 150 people.
Yeah.
So this was like, and I joke around. I always tell her, you know, she says she lives in a cabin. I said, a cabin's not fake wood with wheels. It's, you know, that's a trailer. It's not a cabin, but no, she's from a town where there was a lot of like little tiny cabins.
Sure. So, yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, so,
yeah, I've commuted to Draper or Sandy for probably like 10 years.
Oh, really?
Or maybe more now. It's probably been more, but
it's terrible.
And everyone's always like, well, why don't you just move up here? And I'm like, have you been up here?
I know.
It's not worth it.
It's crazy because people tell, you know, I hear all the time, they go up north and they're like, oh, this is nothing. This is just regular traffic. I'm like, oh, you haven't seen a traffic jam until you're stuck behind 300 sheep.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the traffic jams in Sanpete County. So it's kind of nice. And I love those kind of traffic.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't have to deal with a lot of that.
Yeah. That's great.
So, yeah.
So how big is the North Valley Police Department?
We are right now, we are 9 full-time officers.
Okay.
So there's 9 full-time. It also had our secretary move full-time, and then we have a financial advisor to our board, which is part-time as well. So it's kind of a little weird, but then we have 5 part-time officers that work for us as well. So we're upwards about 14 totally employed people, probably about 15, 16.
Gotcha.
Somewhere in there, but
that's pretty good size.
Yeah, it's pretty good size. Which then obviously comes more problems, right? With personnel, but that's a different story altogether.
Well, it probably is all for the better. I mean, I can remember when I was a kid, it was like there was a cop and a half in Fairview, and then like 2 or 3 in Mount Pleasant and stuff, and like 1 in Moroni. You know, and not that I don't think crime's like a major problem in Sanpete.
Yeah,
you know, but there's enough things that happen, whether you know, against the law or not, just things that happen that need police guidance.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's crazy, you know, police work has changed so much. If I was to tell you the call different ratios from like Linden to down here, it amazes me. Like, in Linden, our patrol officers, and they only had 2 on typically at a time, just like kind of we do. But up there, our call volume would be like thefts, burglaries, that kind of stuff. There wasn't a day that went by that we weren't dealing with a theft or burglary up in Linden, right?
Wow.
And so it was every single day that we had those kind of calls, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 a day. But down here, the theft calls are very, very low. So it's crazy. But down here, we do 100 times the VIN inspections that we do than up in Linden. So a lot more people down here buy from out of state cars and bring them in than up north. They must purchase them in the state or something. But
interesting.
So yeah, VIN inspections down here, they're off the chart. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Up north, it's not that much. So it's kind of a crazy thing. Sorry, my ringtone keeps going.
No, you're good. I don't want to keep you if you get something you got to go to.
Good. We're good. So they can wait.
Whatever it is, anyway, right? Well, good. So what kind of things do you see? I mean, obviously I don't need like details of stuff, but you know, like what's like your most common concern from citizens?
So, I mean, like it goes in spurts. I mean, it depends on some of the things, and I'm sure I'll use with what you do, you probably see a lot of the Facebook stuff and comments and stuff that go on.
I actually don't have social media.
Oh, you don't really?
No, I don't.
Oh, I thought you were.
No,
it's probably better. Turn that stuff off sometimes. Yeah. But so a lot of it seems to go in spurts, right? Yeah. So like speeding is always one of the biggest complaints that we take. Speeding is in both cities, pretty constant complaint that comes in. We deal a lot with domestics. Domestics is very high. We deal a lot with sex offenses, and which a lot of people don't know, right? And I always tell people, because that question gets asked a lot, like what are some of the biggest things that happen? And I said, there's a lot of stuff that happen. I wouldn't say the call volume obviously is as high as Utah County, right? But Utah County has more officers to deal with those call volumes.
Yeah.
So per officer, I think the calls are roughly pretty close to the same.
Interesting.
So what I would mean by that is if you took 10 calls in Utah County, they would be distributed between 3 officers. So you might take 3-4 calls. Well, down here, if you only have 1, you take 3 or 4 calls by yourself.
Right.
Because that's all that comes in. But it kind of is proportionate to the officers. So they're not getting overwhelmed or whatever the case is. But so I always say to a lot of people, they're like, I have no idea that this stuff was going on. I said, if you did, I'm not doing my job, because I want it to be so you really don't know that it is this nice community, and there is, and for the most part, it is fantastic. Both cities are fantastic. There's crime everywhere you go, no matter what. But those are probably typically the things. Animal complaints, we get a lot of those, and that, not gonna lie, it's a hard one.
Yeah,
because we live in the country, right?
Yeah.
I moved down here because I wanted what you guys had, right? And some people move and they want to change things. And then things that were okay, where the guys were farmers 50 years ago, they did things certain ways, and new people don't want to put up with that, And so it's a fine line on what do you do versus what's the right thing, right?
Well, and we're a lot more lax just as a society here, as far as registering animals and how we might view what's an appropriate treatment of animals. Like, I have my dog stay outside all night.
Exactly.
And some people don't agree with things like that.
That's exactly right.
And so then it comes down to like my view versus your view versus what the law says,
and that is, and so like people talk about dog at large. I see that a lot, right? People talk about, they walk their dogs and dogs come out and they're running at large, and those kind of things. That's one of the complaints that we get, and it's seasonal. It comes like in the fall and in the spring, right? Very seasonal, but the dogs running at large has probably been on the books since the 50s. Yeah. Their cities have ordinances that you can't have your dog at large, and they've probably been that way since the 50s. But again, it's country, so it's like people get used to letting their dogs run at large. And people move in and they don't want that, or people are more susceptible to it. Yeah. And
there's like I live outside of Fairview. Yes. So I'm in the county, and I've got a farm right next to me that often has dogs that are at large, but it's the farm dogs. Exactly. And I don't I don't care. And I'm sure they roam into the city at times. But how do you get everything squared away? I totally get that.
And sometimes it's we have to pick the dogs up because they're aggressive. We don't want that. Right. Yeah. And so we have to pick them up. And sometimes education, my stance is always education instead of punishment, right? If we can educate people, there's certain things we have to do. But if we can educate people on certain laws and how to restrain your dog and at the times to restrain your dog and that kind of stuff, I think that goes way farther than any ticket could ever go.
Yeah. Is there like a goat at large law?
So it's interesting. There is a law in both cities for animal trespassing. Oh, okay. So if an animal gets off of the property and gets on somebody else's property, there's that kind of stuff. And then there's state laws that are different, right? That correspond differently than other things. So, it's interesting how things tie together. And like I said, we had one thing that bugs one person doesn't bug another person, and that's the hard part. So people always ask, they go like, so why did my neighbor complain on this? And I said, I have no idea, but it bugs them. And that's why they complain, right? And it might not be a big deal to me, and it might not be a big deal to the person, but to the other person it is. There's, and if it's on the books, then we either need to educate and deal with that, or the other side of it. So,
totally. So what have you seen as far as have you seen major issues with growth?
Growth's always an issue
in population.
Yeah, growth's always an issue, and I know this is going to be very unpopular. Mm-hmm. There's no way to stop growth. Growth is coming no matter what. It's coming down.
All you can really do is like try and get your municipalities or whatever to direct the growth.
Yes.
That's the only option.
That's the only option. So you have some kind of say in how it grows, mm-hmm. right? Because it is coming and it's inevitable. Do I want it? No, because this is my home now. I've been down here for 7 years.
And you came down here while it was still small.
Exactly.
Like,
I want to stay and keep Fairview, very nice, and Mount Pleasant very nice, and that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's inevitable. I mean, at some point, farmers are going to sell their land.
Yep.
And and I can't blame them. I mean, it's a prime location. They're going to build stuff, and cities will have to annex those properties, and
mm-hmm.
they will have to do that, or it'll be chaos if they don't. And
I mean, you look in the paper like with Ephraim and what's going on down there.
Yes.
It's just a matter of time before something like that hits Mount Pleasant, and then it's not long after that before it's Fairview if it's not at the same time.
Yeah. And I hate to say it this way, but I mean, Utah County was like this back in the early 80s, right? It was. And so now you see what Utah County is, and growth will be inevitable, and it will come.
Yeah.
Probably not in my lifetime, so maybe I won't have to deal with it, but it is coming. And so we do see just kind of what we talked about. We see situations where people move in, they want the country life, mm-hmm. right? And I'm not bagging on anybody that moved down here. I'm an implant myself 7 years ago. Sure, yeah. But when people move in, things that were not acceptable up north, mm-hmm. they come down here and they want that country life, but some of those things that were not acceptable come down here and they don't want that stuff too. And so it's a fine line of growth versus ordinances versus education.
And how much do the cops play into like making ordinances and city law stuff?
Very little. So very little. Yeah. The reason why I say that, I mean, we do look at some of the ordinances and we see that they're, if they need tweaked a little bit, because some are just unenforceable, right?
Yeah.
There's some ordinances out there that are ordinances on the book, and I hate this. State law or city, I hate when they put something that says it's totally don't do it, but there's no penalty if you do. Those are the worst things. And there's state law that's like that too.
Yeah.
Hey, do not do this, but if you do it, there's no penalty.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, how do you deal with that, right?
Right, yeah. And especially as an enforcement person. Like
exactly.
That's your job.
That's my job, is to enforce it, but there's nothing to enforce.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of that stuff. And that's because back, when certain ordinances were wrote back in the 50s and the 60s or 70s, it may not needed to be that way.
Yeah.
But now there's certain things that need to change. So we have a little bit like, occasionally someone will come up and I'll go to Mount Pleasant City Council or go to Fairview and say, hey, we can't enforce this, or we need to do this, or we need to do this.
Yeah, and procedurally, obviously, there's things that are going to be beneficial for the police force.
Exactly.
When you're making a law, like how long, like for instance, dog at large.
Yes.
When you take a dog in, where does it go? How long do you keep it? Processing things and stuff like that. If they make this egregiously long punishment or whatever, like,
it's not fair to anybody.
Yeah, and then it's hard for you to enforce, and it's difficult.
And it is, and we typically, like I said, I like to educate. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we don't issue a ticket on every dog at large, right? And it is the officer's discretion. I try not to interfere with that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times we can talk to people and solve problems just by education. But city ordinances are those things. And some of those city ordinances, as you can imagine, don't even apply today. They were written back, way back when there was issues with, say, water rights and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they just don't even apply now.
Yeah.
And so things have to change or updated or whatever. So I try to stay away from I'll tell them what we need, but I try not to influence what they decide as their thing, because then we got to go out and enforce them. Yeah. So I don't want to. And there's some on the books that are like, well,
I guess we'll do something.
We got to do something.
Yeah. But, figure out something.
Yeah. And so maybe talking to is better,
Yeah. It's getting to the cruel and unusual. You have to tap your head and spin in a circle.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So there's some of that stuff, and we try to do the best we can on the education purposes and that kind of stuff. So
I know, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit,
good.
But I know when my kids were in elementary school, they remember you coming by and doing a program with them.
Yes.
What's that about?
So they've taught down here called the DARE program for years.
Yeah, that's what I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah, and DARE, the best way to describe this is DARE has been, it's still out there. We still teach it in Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant still teaches DARE. Good grief, sorry. And it's a great ringtone too. Let me see if I can turn this off real quick. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, so DARE.
And if you need to take anything, just let me know. We can take a break.
No, we're good.
Okay.
So DARE, obviously, most people know what DARE is. It really about drugs and stuff and that kind of stuff. When I was a school resource officer way back in the day, in Pleasant Grove, they taught a program called NOVA. So NOVA stands for Nurturing Opportunities, Value, and Accountability. And so I was trained on NOVA. NOVA had some really good principles that I liked. I've honestly never taught DARE and had never been part of DARE other than I go to their graduation. But anyway, so I know kind of what DARE is about, but I know more about NOVA, if that makes sense. And so NOVA was started in Orem City by an officer there. And he got some psychologists and they came up with this program that we implemented. So when I came down here, DARE was being taught up at Fairview Elementary. And when I became the Fairview chief, I was like, well, we might as well teach it ourselves and I'll teach NOVA because that's what I'm into. Yeah. And so we signed up for the NOVA program and we brought NOVA down to Sanpete County. Okay. At the time. So NOVA, to me, that's where my heart is with NOVA. So that's the program we taught with NOVA. I hope your kid liked it.
She loved it, yeah.
It was, I think it does a really good job, and it talks about a lot more than just drugs. It talks about accountability and making good choices.
And I think that's like one of the things that was missing out of DARE to me is like, I understand and completely support, don't do drugs, things like that. That's important to me, but there's so much more that could have been done with that. Yeah, and I mean, NOVA talks about video games. It talks about TV programs. It talks about social media. It talks about all the dangers that come along with those things. And for what it's worth, the kids are fantastic. Like I say every time that I teach, and Logan now teaches it, our deputy chief teaches NOVA up here in Fairview Elementary. But I tell him every time that I go up there and teach, that's like the best day of my week. You know what I mean? Only lasts an hour, but it's like the best day of my week. I go in there, I have fun, I'm playing games with them, and I leave, and it's kind of nice. Plus, it also, the kids get to know you. Yeah, they know who you are. I still have people, from 5 years ago that come up to me and be like, "Hey, Chief Gray, you taught me NOVA," and I was like, "Yeah." I don't remember who they are, but sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's fun and interacting with kids. That's the best part of my day.
Well, and they'll remember that. Like, that's why I think it was kind of a wasted opportunity. Is like, I always remember when cops came and talked to us. It was always fun. It was always cool. And I'm like, you could teach so much more, because I had a lot of friends that we didn't really do a lot of drugs, but we got in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of things outside of drugs that can get you in trouble that you could, kind of teach some of that stuff if you could. But
and so I've always liked the program. It's always done well, and that's why we kept it coming up here in Fairview. Our school resource officer right now in Mount Pleasant, he teaches DARE in Mount Pleasant, but
which he's new, right?
He is. Well, so he's been around. He's probably the longest school resource officer in Sanpete.
So still Peterson?
No, so it's Jeff McQuivy works for us. And so it's probably, Greg's probably there with him.
Greg was there when I was in high school.
So they're probably like both of them. They've been around probably the longest, both of them.
Yeah.
But Jeff started, who knows how long, 20 something years ago down in Manti as their school officer. And he's moved around to Ephraim Middle School and now he's up here in North St. Pete. So he has a lot of experience doing it, and he's taught DARE for 20 something years. So,
but his position is something new for Mount Pleasant City, right? Because I remember there was something at city council meeting, they were talking about getting funding for a new officer because they wanted Peterson to go kind of like the west side.
Yeah.
And the other guy would be under Mount Pleasant.
And that's what it really was. So the school district needed 2 SROs. We only had one that covered really the whole north end of the county. And that was Greg Peterson.
And that's a lot.
And it's a lot. I mean, he had like 8 schools, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to help out with Fairview taking one of them, but it's still, I mean, it's too much.
Yeah.
And so when I moved over there, we pushed hard to get the school resource officer up there. And Greg did. Greg moved over to the middle school. Jeff became the officer over. I just knocked that on. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Became the officer over in North St. Pete, and
gotcha.
And things have done really well. I mean, he does an excellent job up there. I think the kids love him. Yeah. At least every time I go in there, they're always like, "Do you know Jeff McQuivy?" I'm like, "Yes."
You're like, I'm
and the only claim that I have is I'm like, I hired him.
Yeah.
No, but he does a fantastic job up there. So
does that add any like real complexity, like, because it's still just another cop that's doing a job?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're changing a lot, but does that add anything different from like being the chief of Mount Pleasant that wouldn't have been there?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like they didn't have it at that time, and then we put it in there. It really kind of, obviously with Greg up there, and Greg did a fantastic job, right? Mm-hmm. Greg did wonderful. Yeah. It was just a lot to do all the schools. And so when Jeff comes in there, it kind of changed things for us a little bit because Jeff works for us, so we could kind of control the hours that he's there, and we could tell him what calls to take or what calls our officers had to respond up there and do. So for the police department, changed a little bit there, but more than anything, I just wanted somebody that represented our department up at the school that could, teach values just like Greg did.
Yeah.
And still does over at the middle school. And Jeff stepped right into that role and did a fantastic job.
Awesome.
So it did put our officers with Jeff up there, gave us more time to go to the other schools. So we put it on ourselves, and I told every officer in North Valley that I want an officer walking the halls of every school every single day. And so you may not see Jeff up at specific schools, but you'll see officers walk through the halls of every school every day in Mount Pleasant and Fairview.
That's great.
So I think more cops, the better.
Yeah.
So
and visibility.
Absolutely.
That's the best part, because then you form relationships and friendships and everything else, and it just makes everything so much easier and smoother.
Absolutely. And honestly, I mean, everybody cares for their kids, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody. Yeah. That's their most prized possession in this world, as it should be, just like mine and my grandkids. And so that is the number one thing that I will never sacrifice on. The schools are the most priority. Making a safe place for your kids to get an education is the number one priority for me.
Awesome. So,
we'll make sure we hold nothing back to secure those schools.
Yeah, so. And then Utah just made some new law changes for guardians.
Yep.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Can you explain some of that?
Yeah.
Because I've always had some questions there.
Yeah, so the Guardian program went into effect, and I can tell you it is in effect right now in every school. So there is, the best way to describe it is they are unmarked individuals that are in your school, in every school, and they are armed. And there is not a day that goes by that they're not there. So they are there all school day, every day, to stop a threat if necessary.
And it's like a single person that's hired to do that job, or is that like
it is a person
rotating?
That is hired. Yeah.
Okay.
So now they could, like, if that person needs a day off, there would be an officer or somebody else taking their spot up there.
Gotcha.
So every school in the state has somebody in the school that's armed at all times.
Okay, and it could be whatever job.
Yep,
that they do there, a teacher, administrator,
yes, it could
janitor.
be anybody within the school.
Gotcha.
They've specifically gone through certain training to be able to do that, and obviously there's a reason why they're undercover, so nobody knows, and they don't seek out and be the first one that somebody tries to go after.
Yeah, something happened.
Exactly. So they are there specifically to protect the kids, and I think that's a step in the right direction. I mean, if you can't have a cop at all times in the school, in every school, then I think we should have somebody that's able to stop and protect the kids when necessary.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It's been a really good thing, and that started in St. Pete. The law was passed, but then there was some issues getting everybody trained and stuff statewide, and so, but since this school year, it's been in effect. So, awesome. And only law enforcement knows who those individuals are. So,
sure,
which is good.
Yeah, that's real great. So, but teachers can also carry.
So there's
school and stuff, right?
So there's some certain things. This has been a debate that's been long, and through a lot of things, right? The school districts have certain policies that allows whether a teacher can carry in the school with a concealed permit. There was a law passed about the same time that allows certain teachers to get training. They have to have concealed permits. They have to have a way to secure the weapon while they're in the classroom, that kind of stuff, so the kid doesn't get it. But there's, as far as I know, not even law enforcement knows.
Which I mean, if you're concealed carrying, that's the appropriate way.
Exactly.
It should be nobody knows. But.
Exactly. But they have to have ways to secure it in the classroom. So it's
beyond just a normal concealed carry person.
It is beyond a normal concealed person.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. So they have to have ways that it is secured. The only ones that are not is the guardians who are legally allowed to carry it.
Yeah. So. That's good. I always feel like I was a FFL and been into guns my whole life. You know, like it's been something I've always dealt with in the military and everything else and stuff. But great ringtone, by the way.
That's specifically for him. That's my definition.
Oh, nice.
I have specifics for certain people.
But yeah, one of the things that I always felt like Utah was just a little lacking on with concealed carry was the fact that you don't have to shoot.
Yeah.
You know, I've always wanted Utah to have something where it's like anybody can have a concealed carry permit as long as you check these boxes, but one of the boxes has to be you have to practice.
Yeah.
You know, because that's like my biggest concern is you're out and about, something happens, and there's somebody that's a concealed carry permit holder that is like just Wild West pulling it out and blasting things everywhere, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Can we slow down?
It can be scary, right?
You know, I really worry about that. Like in schools and stuff, I want teachers to be precise if they're going to be carrying and stuff. Like,
and they have to qualify. So you're aware. I'll talk about your other thing in a second.
Okay.
Because I agree with you 100%. The school or the guardians in the school, they have to qualify to the same standard as an officer.
Okay, great.
So they have to pass the same qualification or they're not allowed to do it. And so they have done that and they have to train and they have to do that at certain times during the year to keep up that qualification. So hopefully they are precise and they do get that training to be able to do that. Just
having the fact that they're starting to train and like trying to keep that up.
Yes.
That makes me so much more comfortable with everything.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I don't know who they are, and I'm not like saying that they're a bad person in any way. But it just is a concern.
It is. It's an absolute concern. You ever been to Front Sight?
I've heard a lot about it, and had some tickets once, never went down.
Yeah. So I went years ago. I was a firearms instructor, and me and the other firearms instructor went down there. And I'm not going to bag on Front Sight because I think it's a great
just
program.
Getting people out,
teaching firearm safety, teaching them how to shoot. The fundamentals of it, I think, is a great thing. But when I went there for the first time, you know, I've been an officer for 5-6 years. I'm a firearms instructor. I thought everybody was going to be very similar to me, right? And I walked in there, and people had rigs that they were like tied around their knees with their guns. They had guns like their gun belt was facing forward. I mean, there was magazines that were upside down. It was like unbelievable that this is the average Joe off the street that doesn't know. And that's why they sign up for that class. And I thought I was going to this. Everybody was kind of trained. And in the first hour, guns were laying on the ground. People were dropping them. I mean, it was kind of that thing. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I think people need certain training. Our concealed firearms permit, like it's great education. I'd love to see them get out on the range and get some of that stuff, which then will lead me into my next thing. Mount Pleasant and Fairview will be sometime in the spring offering some firearm courses.
Oh,
and we will bring you up anybody that wants to sign up. Obviously, we can only do so many at a time.
Yeah.
Our firearms instructors will, and it'll be free to charge or free for anybody.
Yeah.
They can sign up in the spring and we'll get you up on the range and we'll teach you some fundamentals with guns and show you how to shoot and kind of do that kind of stuff. We can't pay for ammo, so you got to bring your own ammo.
Hey, you got to draw a line somewhere.
Exactly.
But just having the opportunity.
Yeah, getting up there and kind of like a Front Sight kind of thing, but maybe for just a couple days or 3 days or something. And just get up there and kind of educate people and show them how to shoot. So
heck yeah, that's awesome. So I love things
like that.
We
like to do that kind of stuff. We have done one of the things that we did last year was the Citizens Academy. Don't know if you heard about that. We put it on a social media and we brought I think there was about 10 or 11 people that we did last year. They came in, we just kind of taught them about law enforcement, what we do. reasons why we do it, and then we put them in scenarios. We put them in a school shooting. So they, at the very end of the day, they had simunitions rounds and had to go in and had to go in there and take out a threat and that kind of stuff. And we put them in that. And I think for a lot of people, it can be very stressful, right?
Totally.
And so a lot of people went in there with certain expectations. And when they came out of there, they realized why officers can't shoot people in the knees and why they can't aim for certain things, because you're exactly right. When you've never shot, you're not aware of a pistol, you don't know how they work. Oh boy, you could, and stress pounds on
exactly, like
you
beyond
cannot hit.
Yeah, just not even thinking about manipulating a weapon.
Yes,
just the stress alone. You know, I'm not saying I've been in a lot of high stress situations or anything, but I've been more than average, probably. You know, and so like seeing people, they don't understand how they're going to react, because no one knows how you're going to react. You are going to react differently than every other person.
That's exactly right, and you may react differently any event.
Yeah.
You might have multiple one you freeze, events, you might have one you run, and you might have one that you fight. And and so, and officers, it's hard because one event is totally different from others. And so when you do get in those scary situations that are very stressful, and I always say all the time, and when I was teaching the class, obviously, but I was like, see if you can shoot the gun out of their hand when they point it. It's not going to happen. So I don't care how good you are, it's not going to happen.
That's interesting.
Anyway, so that's cool. We'll be doing that probably starting in January again, and so we'll probably get 10 to 15 people and have some of the people that went last year come back and help us teach the class. So I think it was fantastic, and people that were in there really enjoyed it, and we got 100% graduation ratio, so that was good. Yeah. So, and I don't think any of them want to be cops anymore, but that's okay. So you're going through it. But
no, it's interesting. Kind of talking about like the stress and stuff and everything like that. Like being in the military, there's a big focus on like mental health and everything else, and like how the stress plays into you when you're downrange versus home and everything else.
Absolutely.
And everyone's like, military have it the hardest. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think law enforcement has it way harder because you guys are in and out of it every day.
Yeah. And it depends. I mean, I could say it either way. You hit the nail right on the head. Like it could be law enforcement, but then again, sometimes I look at military and wonder how you guys made it through some of the stuff you did. Right.
Yeah. But because no matter how you look at military, to me, it always has an end point.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't an end point in law enforcement. You're always a cop. Even when you're off duty, you're still a cop to everyone around you that knows.
Oh, yeah. And you always are.
You know?
And no matter where you go, you're
thinking, you're looking, you're watching and stuff. And military people are too to some extent. But like that constant threat that you have when you're downrange in the military is different from home life and the threat and things that are here.
Yeah. And I guess I guess I never thought of it that way, because I just look at the tragic things that I've seen in my life. Right. And then think military sees that, especially if you're going out to war, you're seeing that almost every day. Yeah. So, I mean, how they deal with some of that is the thousands, but I never thought of the daily thing of, and you're exactly right.
I mean, you guys are it's constant.
It is. There's times that you go, that's why you'll see cops sitting in the very far corner of a restaurant. With their back, make sure it's not turned to anybody, right?
Yeah, and then there's like, I just want a place where I can relax for just a second.
Exactly right.
You know, where I don't have to be paying attention to everything.
But no, you're hitting the nail right on the head. Mental health with officers has become humongous in the last probably 5 to 10 years. I mean, it's really come into surface with PTSD. It's really come in quite a bit. The state offered funding for mental health for the first time in probably the last 5 years. So they're realizing it is a problem. I'm not going to lie. I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world. I absolutely am. For the officers that are listening, I'm going to preach and I'm going to tell you need help. They all need to be going, checking in. They need to be making sure that they're okay, because quite frankly, for years and years and years, I never did anything. And then one day it just hit me. And when it hits you, it's late, right?
Right.
So you got to keep on top of that stuff. And I preach that stuff. And then I walk into the counselor recently, and I told him, I've never been here. And so I preach it like crazy. And then I said, but I've got to change my way of thinking too. Yeah. And ever since then, it's really helped. So Yeah, so it's something that I don't know I'll ever be the same. I really don't. And that's the sad thing. But my wife tells me all the time, "You're not the person I married." I said, "Neither are you. You don't like me as much as." No, I'm teasing.
I mean, technically, everyone changes every 5 years anyway.
It does, but yes,
could be more dramatic.
It could,
if you have those influences.
Exactly. So that's for years and years and years, and you being in the military, you'll understand this. Mm-hmm. You get to the point where you hide the empathy. You push it all down, right, to where it's down low in your person, and the empathy disappears. Everybody's just a number. You're just they're not a victim. They're a number. You move through things and you move along. And then as you get later in your career, because you do get to the point where the empathy's kind of gone, mm-hmm. and later in your career, you try to get all that empathy back so you can be normal someday.
Yeah.
Right? So I probably cried more in the last 5 years than mm-hmm. I have, in the last 10.
Yeah.
But
yep.
It's
I know what you mean.
It's kind of a weird thing, but
I think kids kind of help with that a little bit.
They do. I think they bring you out. Maybe that's why I like teaching Nova so much, because I get to see the positive side of things, instead of always the negative. But no, it's a constant battle, and I think it, at least for me, I'm headed in the right direction. But
that's hard for me. I mean, that's like the biggest thing that I have a problem with a lot of like the political upheaval and things that happen, mm-hmm. whether it's nation or city or county or whatever, is, to me, there's clearly defined rules.
Oh yeah.
And I hate to say this specifically because it's going to get a ton of backlash if anybody hears it, but you come to the country illegally, mm-hmm. you broke a law.
Yeah.
It's no different than me speeding. Stealing something or something like that. Like, there is a law that has been broken. There needs to be a discipline.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you're talking about. When somebody feels like they need to have empathy for something, it's like, I agree, but you can't tell me that they didn't break a law.
Yeah.
And you can't give them the mercy of the breaking law.
And that's
without having a.
That's exactly
something.
Right. It comes back to the old Bible, right? It's like, hey, not to bring religion in, but
no, that's fine.
It's
faith,
like
family, flag.
Yeah. So comes down to mercy versus justice.
Yeah.
And it is hard. It is a hard line there, and you're not wrong. How about justice for all the people that did it the right way and waited in line and waited years to be able to come into our fantastic country, right?
Yeah.
And then for the other side of it, it's like, where's the mercy that we're not separating people from families and we're not doing that?
Yeah, and we're taking people that are in a better situation here and taking them to a worse situation.
Which is what we don't want to do.
Exactly.
And so it's a hard line. Luckily for me, I'm not going to lie, we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
So that's a good side. As the police and ICE are completely different.
Yeah.
Although if ICE comes, we will support what.
Sure.
Because they're law enforcement.
Because that's law enforcement too.
We have to support it. But on the other side, like I said, that's the good thing for us, is that if they issue immigration orders or whatever, we're not part of it. So.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it was, when Donald Trump got elected president this last time and the immigration started doing that, there was all these rumors, and you probably heard them too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, ICE was down at Terrell's and they were rounding people up. And I'm like, well, they do notify law enforcement, and I can promise you that ICE has not been down doing a raid in Mount Pleasant or anywhere in San Pete that I'm aware of. And so,
no, the crazy thing is, and this is not a good or a bad thing necessarily, but I remember immigration raids when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
In Moroni.
Yeah.
They've been going on forever here.
They have. And I know in Linden, they did a big raid up at one of the companies up there, and they took like 300 people, and deported them and stuff. So they have been going on. You're right.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I mean, like when I was young though, like, this isn't, people around here shouldn't think this is new.
No,
that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. Like, this is not a new thing that Trump instigated. Like, these laws have been here forever.
Yeah, and
they've been enforced. Yeah, maybe not to the same extent as they are right now.
Yeah,
but they've been.
It might have been
stepped
up, and stuff
exactly.
like that. But when things get out of hand, you have to.
Exactly.
Right? You have to step things up, and so it's an interesting time, and and so the Charlie Kirk thing.
Yeah,
I had some very good friends that were on the ground. They were on the ground during it, right? Mm-hmm. It's an absolute tragedy. It's absolute terrible. One of my friends was with him
during as one of the security detail.
Yeah, well, no, he wasn't security, but he was called in. And so he ended up at the hospital as part of the evidence at the hospital. And I remember talking to him, and I was on the phone with him probably later that night. I didn't realize that he had been at the hospital. I was just checking in because I knew they all went over there.
Right.
And he told me, I might get emotional, sorry.
No,
but he told me, he's like, he spit off, and he's like a 17-year officer, and he spit off all these things, this world, you know, and what's going on and how things are going downhill and everything, and how bad things happen, right? Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, you're right. And he goes, I don't even know why I do this job. And he was kind of getting into that. And I said, well, here's the thing. If you don't, who's standing? Like, who's holding that line? It's going to fail. Yeah. I mean, our world is going a certain direction that I don't know. I hope we can pull back, but it looks like it's going a certain direction. It seems
like we're past that tipping point where it's going to be a lot harder to pull it back if we can at all.
Yeah. And so hopefully we can, and I feel optimistic that we can, but who's the last one standing fighting for that? Yeah. And it's officers like him. I'm going to be long gone when this time comes, but it's going to be officers like him that are holding, trying to keep bad things from happening to good people. And unfortunately, I hope it changes around. I've been here for 23 years in law enforcement. I'm always optimistic. Everybody knows me, knows I'm optimistic, but it's definitely gone a different direction in the last 23 years. So,
but it's hard. I mean, like I don't see it around here. Yeah. You know, you don't see it in Sanpete.
No,
that much.
It's a different world.
Yeah. But you go up north, you talk to people who work I work in a big company in Sandy, and I talk to coworkers or hear them talk. I guess I don't really talk to a lot of people, but you know, it's not the same.
It's not.
The world is not the same there as it is here. It's a different concept.
And that is the one thing that I will tell you about down here that is so fantastic. I could not pick a better place to be in law enforcement, because Sanpete County 100% supports their law enforcement.
Awesome.
And they are 100% behind us. You know the song, Try That in a Small Town? Mm-hmm. I believe that would be the case if that ever came up. And how wonderful is that to have that?
Well, but you guys make it easy is the thing. Like, I've always been a proponent of backing the blue and supporting law enforcement, and that's until law enforcement does things that are wrong. Yeah. You know, but you guys don't. That's the thing, is you guys make it where you're following the rules, you're enforcing the right things. Yeah. And so it's easy to be like, these are our guys.
That's exactly right. And to have the support behind it. I'll tell another story if you're okay. I love stories. So some people know about this. This one's near and dear to my heart. But so you're aware of the Millburn incident years ago where the officers got shot at up there in Millburn. Well, I was one of those officers. It was the second time that I've been involved in a shooting. And what a difference it was. So like, I always, we have this code called a 1033. Mm-hmm. And 1033 means help me now. We need help now, right? When I was getting trained up in South Jordan, they basically told me, if you ever call 1033 and you're not shot, then you better shoot yourself, because the officers,
it's that important.
It's that important. And basically it was just a thing of make sure that you are not calling that code unless you really need it. And so I had heard it twice in my career. Both were shootings, and here I am calling it. Damn. And so it was kind of one of those nervous I'll be honest, probably one of the worst days of my life. I was going through hell, right? And things don't end right there. Mm-hmm. We had a manhunt. We were trying to catch him. All the resources were coming up. I went through absolute hell for a long period of time. But the one thing that I can tell you, I don't remember who responded. I don't remember the officers. I mean, we had hundreds of them, right? Utah County came down, the SWAT team. We had people in the air. I mean, we had full-fledged state manhunt for these individuals, right? And through it all, I don't remember a whole lot. I remember some citizens coming up specifically. Mm-hmm. I remember our mayor. I remember at the time was Dave Taylor. He came up. I remember one of our council members, which is now our mayor, Brad Welch, came up. Mm-hmm. They brought me some pizza. They brought me some things to kind of help, right, on that kind of stuff and the support there. What I recall the most, leaving and being told okay, go home. We got this. Go home. And feeling like totally empty, right?
Yeah.
Being in the military, you probably have experienced that. Totally emptiness on what do I do now?
Yeah.
And I drove into Fairview, and the first thing I saw was a flag. And the flag was put up in somebody's yard. And I drove down Main Street, and there was probably 20 flags lighting Main Street. They'd put those up for me, right? Or for the officers that were involved in that thing. They didn't know if an officer was shot. They didn't know what was going on, but they supported it, and they were all lighting Main Street. So, like, immediately I was like, I went from, yes, my patriotism came out, because I'm like, that is first support of me, right?
Yeah.
And then I drove up to the gas station, and there's a kid that lives in Fairview. His name is Peyton Cox, if you know Peyton. And Peyton came up to me, and he doesn't talk a lot, but Peyton came up to me, and he's like, first things out of his word, I got out of the truck, and he looked at me and said, "Hi, cop." And I was like, hey. Now I'd gone through hell, but here's the kid that's smiling at me. He's waving at me, and I'm not gonna lie, got in my car, and I lost it, right?
Yeah,
because it was like just the support of that community. Now, interesting thing enough, I paid it forward. A couple years later, Peyton is the only badge number that's ever been retired by Fairview Police Department. He is 5Q99. I believe it's 99. I'm going to 95. I'm sorry. It's Lightning McQueen's number. Yes. So 5Q95, and he was presented with the badge and a couple of things for his actions that day for me. So
yeah, that's great.
It was fantastic. So tears me up every time I think about it.
See, and I wonder that might be part of how it's a little easier for some law enforcement at times versus military. Like, you go back military, it's like just another day, it's rinse and repeat. Whereas you guys might get some respite, but I still feel like you guys just being in the trench every day is still difficult. And
and it I'm not gonna lie, it has its days. It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, we never see people at their best, right?
Yeah.
They're always at their lowest moments. And so when you call the police, you're at your lowest moments.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't talk to there aren't very many cops that stay optimistic after 23 years.
That is true. I wasn't at a time. Now I'm back. So. But I try to have a smile on my face and try to go through and try to show that to some of the guys. Now, sometimes I'm yelling and sometimes I'm not nice. And I promise you, I'm a villain in somebody's story out there.
Oh,
right?
sure.
But in the grand scheme of things, the support that we get here in Fairview and Mount Pleasant is unbelievable.
Good.
It's unbelievable.
Good. I'm glad to hear.
Couldn't be more happy. So
yeah, great. So what's next for North Valley?
Good question. So as we talked before, as of last night, we've actually been training a canine, his Officer Rafe, which was we obtained, I believe, back in June and July for North Valley. Officer Rafe passed his certifications last week to be certified as a narcotics dog, and Officer Blackburn, who is Rafe's training officer, I would say, or controls Rafe, was certified last night. So Rafe is actually on the streets now, working as an officer, and he hopefully will increase our drug detection. Rafe is the only canine in Sanpete County right now.
Awesome.
So we hope that he can be utilized, and we can hopefully put some dents in some of the drugs around and kind of do some things like that. So that started last night. There's a few things in the work. North Valley has done really well with Mount Pleasant and Fairview. I don't know expansion wise. There's always talks here and there, but we don't know right now what
you mean, like other cities potentially.
Whether other cities would join or whatever the case is. But that's always potential, right? As more coverage and more things are needed and that kind of stuff. The sheriff's office right now does a contract with Fountain Green and Moroni, and then Spring City has their officer as well. Yeah, and we're always there to help and do those kind of things. But I never say no to nothing. So there could be some opportunities of expansion that way. But with the board, that's a board's decision, not really
yeah
mine. So
yeah, sure.
So there's potential on that, but as it sits right now, we do have an officer in the academy right now. His name's Drake Johnson.
Awesome.
He's doing very well. He will come out. When he comes out, it will provide us with probably a little bit of schedule changing and stuff, but it'll make more people out, if that makes sense, during the critical times that we need them. So awesome. Yeah.
More people out patrolling.
Yeah. So we're doing really well, and things are just plugging along. So.
Pretty soon we're going to have a regular old police department.
I know. Yeah. It's going that direction. So someday it'll all be up and moving again. But no, it's doing good.
So I'm trying to remember. San Pete has a detective. And then there's no detectives in any of the cities, or does Ephraim have one?
No, so it's kind of a little bit weird, but North Valley has a full-time detective.
Oh, North Valley does. Okay.
North Valley has a full-time detective. So how we're structured is we have our chief, our deputy chief. We have a sergeant over patrol. Gotcha. So me and the deputy chief basically are over the entire department, all the functioning of the department. Then we have, our sergeant who oversees patrol. And then we have our detective and our school resource officer. Okay. And so the deputy chief oversees the detective, the full-time detective, and the school resource officer. Okay. So he kind of monitors that.
That's kind of like the specials group.
Yeah, kind of the special side of it. Yeah. If we need some undercover work done, they do it. If we need certain things happening in the school, they kind of do that. Yeah. And so the patrol's just out there taking calls and trying to be proactive in knocking down crimes and stuff like that. So I'm a big proponent of proactive versus reactive. It's a lot easier. So San Pete County, I don't know how many detectives they have, because they have a major crimes division as well. And I think their detectives are part of that major crimes division. Okay. They're running probably 3 or 4 somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it's been probably 5 or 6 years since I talked to anybody about it. But
so they're running 3 or 4 detectives. Most of their stuff's on patrol and their admin as well. And I don't know how many sergeants they have. But Ephraim has, I think they have 2 detectives. Okay. Ephraim's running 2. Yeah. So
do you get a lot of like investigative crime things? Like, does the detective stay pretty busy?
Yeah. Matter of fact, he's absolutely swamped. Oh, really? You would be shocked. Some of the cases, if you think about it, the patrol officers go out on a call, right? They go out on a call, and let's just say it's a theft. They go out, they take the theft report, right? If there's nothing that they can follow up that night, they kick it to a detective. Okay. And then the detective follows up and sees if he can come up with any more leads or that kind of stuff, and see how they can go from there. And we've had fantastic success at that. I mean, honestly, we've solved more theft cases. Like I said, they're very low down here. I want to reassure the public, the theft is very low. So when you do hear about a theft and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" That's because we're not used to it. Right. Like when you go up north, we're taking a ton of cases every single day on that stuff. Down here, we might take 5 cases in Fairview a year.
Yeah, so I remember seeing the numbers of everything. It was way low.
Yeah, it's way low on our theft stuff, but on other stuff, our domestics, they're fairly high.
But there's not like detective work necessarily with that, right?
That's there can be. It depends. Yeah. Okay. So there can be situations where an individual, like, how do I say it this way? The politically correct way to say it, where an individual commits a domestic violence crime and then he flees. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so he flees, and then the detectives would come in and try to follow up.
Find him and track him down.
And do that kind of stuff. So there is some of that stuff. A lot of the cases that he has, and it's been about a week, but he literally had 8 sex offenses that he's dealing with right now. Wow. And so, so that number obviously is not typical. He doesn't typically have that many, but right now, for some reason, they're all getting reported at the same time. So
can you get into like statistics of that? Like, is there like a outlying group or anything that they're that it seems to be centered around or anything? Like, is it school related?
It's not necessarily school related. Most of them. So this is the one thing that talking about sex cases that I will tell you, sex offense cases, everybody knows their perpetrator.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely is it the perpetrator unknown. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So typically it is somebody within the family or somebody very close to the family that typically commits those offenses. Now, the hard thing about some of those sex cases is that the average disclosure is about 7 years.
Right.
So when an event happens, you do get those occasionally. They're small percentages, but you do get those occasional that they're reported immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are 7 years is the average disclosure that we get. And so you're talking about putting a case together that occurred 7 years prior to.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that's hard, right?
Yeah.
The evidence is changing. I mean, there's a lot of problems that come with those things. So on one hand, you do know who the suspect is, but on the other hand, very hard to put a case together on that kind of stuff. And those are the more serious cases.
Right.
So, I mean, they're typically the first degree felonies that you see out there on what happens. So, a lot of the cases that we're dealing with right now are those 7-year disclosures.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, some of them are even longer than that, but they are things that happened 7 years ago.
God, that's rough.
So, yeah, it's tough.
Trying to figure out that kind of stuff,
And then the mental health of the officers. I mean, so when you're dealing with that, it's one thing to hear a kid disclose what happened to them, right? And then to push it deep down while you investigate it, but then to do it every single day and hear the same thing.
Yeah, 6 or 8 times,
I know.
Like that's
it becomes unbearable. And so that's where the mental health of those, especially those doing those cases, comes into it. I did it for 5 years. It's a rough job. I never want to do it again.
Yeah.
And so it's a rough job to do, but God bless the people that step up to do it. So
I mean, it has to be done.
Yeah, it does.
You gotta bring as much justice as you can to try.
Or if there is somebody out there continuing to do it, we've got to stop it. Yeah. And so, and it is rough. It's tough.
Yeah, that's a hard one. So, I mean, you gotta feel like the most helpless in those situations. Like as a cop, like you go somewhere and somebody's like holding somebody up or something, like you have immediate action you can take.
You do, and it's typically over very quick. But with those cases, they can linger and linger and linger for years and years and years. Yeah,
that's rough.
So so God bless the people that step up to do it. I'm past that point in my life, so I can move on and maybe be a little bit more normal.
Yeah, that's hard. I haven't spent a lot of time. My sister worked for Sandy Police Department for a while, and so she talked a bit about, she did mental health for victims, and she talked a lot about how some of the officers reacted to, like, after a year, 2 years, 3 years of doing that type of investigation, how it's mentally degrading and stuff.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, I have my own theories, but it's, and who knows how it'll work out. Our detective was just in there, he got put in July, so he's only been there since July, so he's just getting going, learning it. And I'm trying to train him because I did it for years and years and show him kind of the ropes, which he's doing a great job. But I have a firm belief that I was in there way too long. And I was in there 5 years. It was unbelievable. So there has to be a midpoint of, where you get somebody trained, you put an effort into getting them to where they're able to do it, to where they're not in there long enough that it.
And then it's like as soon as they're trained, it's time for them to train their replacement.
That's exactly right.
Because they've got to get out of it.
Because they got to get out. And so I've been a firm believer that nobody should be in a position like that for more than 3 years.
Yeah.
And then kind of move on to something else.
And so we don't have. You're talking about like sexual. Specifically.
Those are the specific
not just detective
ones.
Work.
No, most of your detective work. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of it has the same effect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're talking about PTSD and you're talking about stressful events, when you have to talk to children, there is a lot of stress. There's a lot of stuff that come along with that. Right. A lot of baggage, I say.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you go on a death, whether it's a suicide or a natural causes or homicide, right?
Mm-hmm.
You exhibit the same stuff.
Yeah.
When you're taking maybe a theft report and you're following up on that, it's probably not.
A little easier.
Yeah, a little easier.
Like you might get frustrated that somebody stole something from somebody who didn't deserve it.
But, exactly. But it's not it doesn't have the baggage that the other ones carry with you for years. And so the detective, like if you had in our department, we don't. Our detective's going to handle everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah. He's going to handle all those with the help of our deputy chief and our chief and that kind of stuff, and we'll all work them together. But if we had different ones where there's a property crimes detective,
right,
he could probably
stay longer. For years and stuff. Yeah. Or even like narcotics, you might be okay.
Yeah, you might be okay to stay for a while. Yeah, but not the other ones.
Yeah, any kind of like domestic violence could get pretty rough. And then any kind of sexual law breaking stuff, like that's all going to be hard to deal with for any amount of time.
It is for sure. So there's a fine line, and you have to look at every position differently. And if you put an SRO in for 3 years, he's just barely getting to know the kids.
Yeah,
right? I mean, he's just barely getting to know some of the kids that are coming up. It's like you can't really. An SRO needs to be in there for extensive periods of time.
Like it's important that Peterson has been there since I was there.
Exactly, and so it is important. And see, it's interesting. You remember his name?
Yeah, well, right? We talked a lot.
Yeah, and so it's like it's not a bad thing. I mean, I am a cop because of an SRO, flat out. Now I skipped that part, but I am a cop because I'm an SRO. And I literally, it was so funny. Well, I'll tell the story. If you got time.
I got plenty of time.
So when I was a senior in high school, Pleasant Grove put in their first SRO ever in the high school, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I wasn't like, we avoided the cops. We didn't want to be around the cops, right? And so we had this thing called the drag strip, and anybody that's been to Pleasant Grove knows what the drag strip is. It's just a parking lot.
I know what it is.
For a quarter mile.
And I'm not even from there.
Exactly. And so I was walking down this drag strip one day, and here comes the police car going up the drag strip, and I saw him, and I think I said something like, "Pig," right? Yelled "pig," and that car came to an immediate 30 miles an hour to an immediate stop in about half a second, slammed on its brakes. And I remember the car was a Chevy Lumina. Mm-hmm. So it's a small Chevy Lumina, and that door flies open, and the biggest man I have ever seen in my life gets out of the car. And his name was John Lloyd. So if he's listening to this, he'll get a kick out of this. But his name was John Lloyd, and I didn't know it at the time, but he was Mr. Utah. So he was humongous, ripped, and got out of the car. And I won't say the words that he told me, but he was right up in my face, yelling and screaming at me and calling me all kinds of names, and basically told me that he wanted me in my office the next day. And I was like, okay. And so, I was scared to death. And so I went in and met John, and we had a talk about respecting certain people, especially when they're bigger than you, that kind of stuff. Right. And I probably walked out of there who cares, that kind of thing. And so, but years later, that never went away from me. Right. I mean, that never went away from me, and the impact that he had just that one day, because I was a punk kid, and he kind of put me a little bit straight and that kind of stuff. And I talked to him a few times in my office. Well, later on in life, I become a Pleasant Grove officer, and he's still there. So
Holy smokes.
He's still there. And we're talking 15 years later, he's still there. And I'm so I go in there, and I thought he was going to recognize me immediately, and he didn't. And I talked to him, and I asked him, one day, I'm like, do you remember this incident? And he's like, oh, I do. And he recalled it. I remembered it. Later in life, I became his boss. And so I was the sergeant over him, and I'm like, nice. Yes, now we're getting even. No, but he was fantastic.
Now I can call you whatever I want.
Yeah, and he wanted to do 35 years in law enforcement, but he ended up, and most of the time he's 27 years as a school officer.
Wow.
But he got to the point, he's like, I need out of the schools, and went back to the road and worked that for a couple of years. He's like, I'm done. So I'm like, okay. So he ended up doing 33 instead of 35.
Oh, shoot.
But that was a lot. Plenty. Yeah,
that's a lot.
I'm like, I got 10 more years till 33. I won't be around that long, I promise. But yeah, so guys like that, you wonder how much of an impact he made. Well, I'm here because of the impact he made on me.
And
so
it wasn't like a super remember, like he didn't just remember right off the top of his head who you were and what you were doing and stuff.
But he remembered the incident. And the second I said, I remember calling you a pig, and he's like, I remember you.
Yeah.
And so
that's probably a lot how Greg would look at our relationship.
Oh,
like,
really?
I had a lot of talks with him, but they weren't ever like it was all surface stuff.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't ever like a bad kid.
Yeah.
Just
kind of like me. Needed a little
just
adjustment here or there.
Yep. Yeah.
so no, it's good. And he'll never know. Like he knows we joke around quite a bit, and I haven't talked to him probably a year, but we joke around, and we could meet tomorrow and have the same relationship that we've had for the last 15 years. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I like him.
Yeah. So do you still do any mechanicking?
No, I'm not gonna lie. Not at all.
None of it.
None of it. Like I sit here and everybody asks me, can you look at this? Or my kids ask me about it, and I can do it for about 15 minutes. And about 15 minutes later, I'm throwing things, and I do not have the mentality for mechanicking. So nope, I find a good mechanic and I take my stuff to them.
I don't blame you.
And let them do it. So yeah, I mean, I might be able to change brakes or something, but I'm not going much deeper than that. So
yeah. So what do you do to unwind? Like, what's your hobbies and stuff you like to do?
I know it doesn't look like it, but I used to, and I haven't done one in a lot, but physical exercise for me was probably the key. Now I haven't done it in a few years, but I got into triathlons. I was doing a bunch of triathlons. I think I've done 9 Ironmans, full distance Ironmans, and probably about 30 half Ironmans, and probably ran 100 marathons.
Wow.
So I've done a lot of that. That's how I used to be able to take off the stress. Now the stress is not as
it's not as strong
high because of the position I'm in. So I haven't done a lot of that stuff, but I still have my bike, my $15,000 bike sitting on a thing that's on a pedestal that's just sitting there collecting dust. But those bikes are expensive.
What got you into triathlons?
I ran track in high school. I played football. I did that kind of stuff, and basketball, and I don't know, the football dies obviously when I just wasn't good enough. I'm small. and basketball, I got to the point it just was, I don't know, just didn't enjoy it anymore. So started running for fun. Who does that? And just,
nobody does.
I know. No, everybody's like, you get that runner's high? Never once. But so I started running for a while, and then I'm like, I've always rode bikes, so I picked that up and then just signed up for. I was an idiot. I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm like, this Ironman thing looks cool, and I didn't even know what the distances were. So I signed up for St. George Ironman like in 2008, and trained all year long because then I got scared how far it was, and did my first one, and then kind of got hooked. So.
Isn't it weird how that works?
I know. I tell myself every time, I'm like, never going to do that again. You cross the finish line 2 days later, you're signing up for the next one. I know.
That's exactly how my wife is with stuff that she does.
Yeah. So
she'll sit and compete and do things, and she's like, this sucks. I hate it. And then the competition's over, and she'll be like, if I do this, I could come in better next year.
Yeah, exactly right. It's like everything. I don't know. You cross the finish line, you're happy, you get your medal, and you say you're never doing it again. It hurts so bad. 2 days later, the pain's gone. You're like, I'm back in.
Yeah.
And you're right back in. So.
Yep. And then you're stuck again for another year.
Exactly.
Well, that's funny.
Those are the things that I used to do. Now, I mean, I've got my grandkids. I spend a lot of time with my grandkids.
They live around here?
Yeah, they live over in Moroni right now.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah,
cool. That's
so
nice.
I've got 3 of them, and I spend a lot of time watching them and hanging around them. And
heck yeah.
They're the fun age before they get mischiefy. So I got a 2-year-old, and
then they get to be the really fun age.
Exactly. Yeah. So I got 2 5-year-old twins and one.
Oh, that's a handful.
2-year-old. So it's pretty cool.
That's cool. Is cops running in your family? Like, is any of your kids looking at it?
Yep, not at all. None of my family was ever cops or military, and none of my kids have any interest in going that direction either. So it's like just me. So I don't know what it was. It was like, well, let's try something different, and it's really been a good career. I sit here and talk about the negatives, but in retrospect, I mean, you have a lot of negatives, but there's the very few positives.
Yeah.
Right? And the very few positives, even though they're very few, they outweigh the negatives every single time.
Yeah.
So when you're able to step in there and you save somebody's life, it's way at the top, right?
Yeah.
When you make a difference and somebody comes back to you and tells you that your little talk that you had with them 15 years ago changed their lives around.
Yeah.
Those are the good things.
It's
they don't
crazy.
Come very often, but
yeah.
Those are the things that keep you going. Hey, this job is really
just
there.
The hope of a small conversation is all it takes for you to do this
exactly.
job, like that's awesome.
And you go home and all those times that you beat yourself up saying you're not a good cop or you're not doing this or like everybody else has in their jobs and get done. It's those little tiny rewards when your boss tells you did a good job, those kind of things. So, but no, it's been very rewarding for me. I've had a fantastic career. I don't know how many years left I got, but we'll see. I got to make this thing at least stand for a while. Right. So, but we'll see how things go. But but I'm in the end of my career.
Sure. Yeah.
So we'll see.
So you said 15 in Linden. Is that what it was?
Yeah, roughly about 15, I think, 15 is where I did the most, but I'm 23 in right now.
23.
Yeah,
okay.
So I always joke and say I should have retired 3 years ago, but
did you get in before they changed the retirement in the state?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a 20-year.
Gotcha.
Who's over 20 years. so we'll see how things go, but those are constant battles on when do you hang it up and when do you keep going and that kind of stuff. And I had one officer tell me recently, he's like, "Do you feel like you're as sharp as you were when you were young?" And I'm like, "Well, no. I don't." And he's like, "So you don't feel like you're as sharp?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." He's like, "I think that's the time." I'm like, "Are you trying to push me into it?" No, he was joking around, but
sure.
But realistically, and I tell this story quite a bit to the other officers too. I said, when I first started, we had, and I'm picking on SROs. That's just because they seem to be in those positions for a long time. But I said, when I first started in law enforcement, we had the SROs on the line, right, with their guns and stuff, and they were shooting at targets, and they're shaking, and they're the older guys, and they're shaking, and they can't hit the target, and they can't shoot very good, and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, and I was a young 20-year-old kid that was like, they have no business being there, right? I'm one of those guys now. I'm the one on the line that's shaking and can barely shoot my gun very well, but no, I do okay.
No, yeah. No, it's I mean, that's kind of the natural progression though. Like it's with any career field. I work in information security, which is not glamorous in any way whatsoever, but like you start out and you do all the grunt work for all the years, or whatever. And then you move up and you sharpen your people skills and let dull your engineering skills. And it's kind of the same, like you're a chief, like probably 60% of your day is spent doing things other than police work.
That's exactly right. And putting out fires.
Yeah.
It really is.
So like that's something you can do a lot longer than police work.
Yeah. And my wife told me she's been with me like 100% in my career. I don't mean this the opposite way. She has supported me. She's been with me. She's been through the good, the crying, the bad days, all that kind of stuff. She's been through it. She's held my hand through it all. Could not ask for a more amazing woman than her. And God bless her, because I couldn't put up with myself. Anyway, but so I went to a city council meeting. Now, I'd been doing this for a while. I went to a city council meeting, and I don't remember why, but she was there. She went to the city council meeting, and I got up and gave my little speech, and and I did my little thing that I was supposed to do in the city council. And when we got back in the car, she's like, "I don't even know who you are." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Because I didn't realize it. And she's like, "You're a politician." I said, "I'm not a politician." She's like, "You're 100% a politician. You're up there. You're like giving speeches. You're rallying things up." And I'm like, and she goes, "I've never seen that before in my life with you." So she just didn't see that side of it, and there is, I deal with city councils. So there is some of that politician stuff that has to be there. and that kind of stuff. But I don't mind doing it. It's not as bad as it says. And for the most part, everybody's way supportive. I mean, I couldn't ask for better city councils right now than we have. In both cities. So
that's good. Yeah. Do you think you'll get into politics after?
No chance.
No chance?
No chance.
You don't have like aspirations of being like the county sheriff?
No chance. Yeah. I like it. I never say never to anything.
Sure.
But I don't. I mean, have people asked me that I should run? Yeah, they have, but I don't. That doesn't interest me. I like what we're doing right now. I like the things that we've got going on. I mean, and honestly, like I said, Fairview was such an awesome position. Mount Pleasant, we've now combined them together, and I feel like we're on the same thing. I think both are just really rolling in there. And Mount Pleasant's position with Fairview's right now is just awesome. And so I feel like we're the right size. That is perfect size as we sit right now. Sweet. So taking on more problems, I always say, why do we want to take on any more problems when we have our own?
Oh, so, seriously.
So I'm good right where I am.
Good. So. Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. I don't really have anything else. Is there anything that you want to share with the public?
No, I think we're good. Like I said, I think we touched on the Citizens Academy. If anybody's interested in that, we will have the signups. They'll be on Facebook.
Okay.
Right around January-ish. We'll probably announce it in December.
Okay.
For the firearms thing that we've been looking at, we're thinking we were going to do it last year. We ran out of time doing it, so it'll probably be the spring as soon as the snow comes off.
Gotcha.
Sometime there, and we'll get that going.
There's a shooting range on Mountainville Road. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's the one we're talking about. Yeah. Okay. So we have a private shooting range for the police up there that we do our stuff, and that's where we'll be up doing that. So
sweet.
But if you're interested in the firearms one, I will tell you, you will have a ball in the Citizens Academy because we talk about certain things and why we do certain things. And then if you've ever been interested in being a cop or wondering what we deal with, there's a lot of scenarios that we go through, and they are a ball.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
So anybody that wants to join in that, we're more than happy to get in there. So
great. Is there any expansion administratively that's going to be happening with this?
Not right now. Yeah. Okay. So we're right kind of where we are. As for those that don't know, North Valley is governed by a 5-person board. Right now, each city, Fairview has the mayor is appointed to that board. They then appoint a city council member from each city. So that makes 4, from 2 from each. And then we appoint the board appointed a citizen on the board. And so right now from Fairview, it's Mayor Brad Welch and Councilman Mike Ricks. And then from Mount Pleasant, it's Mayor Mike Olson and Lynn Beasley is the council member. And then Daniel Maurer is the citizen.
Okay,
of the board.
Cool. Yeah, is he still at work at the prison?
He doesn't. No, he retired about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
God, that's crazy. I think I applied to work at the prison the same time as him.
When he did,
real close to his time.
Yeah. So he serves on our board with us, and so it's governed by that board. There may be changes in the board depending on elections and stuff, but I think it's the same, going to stay the same. And
great.
And then as far as our admin in the police department, we're pretty locked in until if somebody moves or whatever the case is. So,
great.
Yeah. So
and any changes I'm sure you post on your Facebook page that's active and everything.
Yeah. And so if you don't follow on Facebook, I did have to turn the comments off because of some things that happened, but
I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah, I think but anyway, it's fine. But some comments that were made, and we had to shut those down, and some things like that. But we will open up the comments eventually again.
Great.
Hopefully moderate it a little bit better than it was. But for the most part, our Facebook account, North Valley Police, that's where a lot of our stuff comes out. Even if there's a major incident, we post them on there. So if you haven't followed that, follow that. And we put all those announcements on there.
Okay.
Things happening. Occasionally you get to see me dance or something on there. But
heck yeah.
That's just to keep people.
It's like a train wreck. You can't look away.
Oh, it is an absolute train wreck. That's the only reason why you do it. If I was a good dancer, nobody'd watch it. It's because I'm terrible. So that's why we do it. But,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great. Thanks. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
I appreciate being here.